Hey guys, it's Nicole. Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another vlog. This time, this vlog is not part of one of my series. I know I'm a huge fan of them, but I do want to start just doing more casual vlogs. And in this vlog, I'm going to be trying out fantasy romance. If you follow me or if you're familiar with my channel and my taste in reading, you will know that fantasy is my go-to genre, but I haven't really explored fantasy romance. I said in my anti-TBR video that even though I don't think romance books are necessarily for me, I think I might have some luck with fantasy romance. And I thought since Valentine's Day is coming up, I should try it. I should see what fantasy romance has to offer and see if it works for my personal taste. So that's what we're going to do. The first book I'm going to be reading is From Blood and Ash. I actually did start this in, I think, December, but I put it down because I had to focus on my TBR vlogs. Basically, I started this because of the FOMO. Like, literally everyone was reading this book last year and I was curious. So I did start it. I think I'm a few hours in. I have a feeling I'm about 4 to 5 hours in. So I'm just going to continue listening from where I was at. The next book I'm planning on reading is Empire of Sand. I again actually started this book last year and had to put it down for vlogs and such, and I forgot this was actually a fantasy romance. And then I sent out a tweet yesterday just asking for fantasy romance recommendations, and I got so many, so thank you so much to everyone who responded to that tweet. But I should have clarified in my original tweet that I was looking for adult recommendations, not YA fantasy. I got a lot of recommendations for YA fantasy. So Sophia responded and said, oh, what about Empire of Sand? And I was like, hang on, I started that a while ago, never got around to continuing it. I really want to continue it and finish it, so this is perfect. So I think I will just restart this one because there's only like 40 pages in and I would like to restart it. Now, another book that immediately came to mind when I decided I wanted to do this video was Radiance. I cannot remember the author's name. I have no idea what this book is about. I'm completely clueless and I'm going to go in not knowing a thing. I will give you guys synopsis once I pick up these books. The last book I'm going to be reading in this vlog, and another book I don't know what it's about, is Sorcerer to the Crown. I want to pick this book up because I found it on like a fantasy romance recommendation list, but I wanted to pick this up because I love reading books where I've never heard anyone talk about them. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know what it's actually about, and I just want to go into this one not knowing a single thing. I find that so fun. I always talk about unpredictability, and my favorite books always end up being the most unpredictable. And like, if you go into a book not knowing a single thing, then the chances of it being unpredictable is really, really high, which I just find so fun. So I'm interested to see what I think of these books. I don't know how it's gonna go. I'm hoping some of these books work for me. Okay, so I'm almost at the halfway point with Radiance. I started listening to the audiobook, but I wasn't loving it. I just was not a fan of the narrator. So I have switched over to the ebook. I may pick up the audiobook again though. It just sort of depends on time. But the ebook, it was available on Scribd, thankfully. Our two main characters in this have an arranged marriage because they're both from different species, races. Our main girl character is from like the humans. She is the niece, I believe, to the king. Is it the king? He might not be called the king, but she is the niece to someone who has like political importance in this world. And then we have our love interest, who is what you call a Kai, and they're like these old ancient beings. Like, he's not old, but his race is old, and they have magic, but the magic used to be stronger in the past. With each generation, the magic is lessening and they're becoming less powerful as a race. So his father, for instance, is a lot more powerful than he will ever be, and he is the 6th son to the king amongst the Kai. So he's kind of irrelevant just because he's like child 6. In order to like make the alliance strong between the Kai and the humans, these two characters have an arranged marriage. Where I'm at, our two characters have just gone back to like the Kai's place in the world, and now our main female character is like meeting his family and like his castle and court and how all that works. It's interesting because there's so much commentary on their appearances and their differences, and each race finds one another really ugly. So like the Kai finds humans really ugly and the humans find like Kai really ugly, and so they keep like kind of talking about that and mentioning that. It's quite cute because the two like main characters kind of laugh about it. I'm liking this so far. I'm not loving it, I'm not hating it. I think it's definitely what I'm in the mood for. It's quite easy to read and follow along, so I'm hopeful that I'll get through it quite quickly. I feel like a lot of people really love this. Like if I go on Goodreads, a lot of my friends have rated this 4 or 5 stars, but I don't know if that's going to be the case for me. Okay, so I finished Radiance. I think I'm going to give this 3 stars. I've been feeling so iffy on books recently, like I have been in a slump, so I didn't really know what to rate this. For the most part, I think this book was easy to read, but I don't think I loved it. Well, I didn't love it. I know I didn't love it. I didn't hate it either. It was a lot about these 2 characters getting to know each other as like husband and wife after they have this arranged marriage. There was a lot of them like comparing their differences, but I found that the differences that they were comparing were quite superficial. A lot of it was focused on their appearance, also focused on like what foods they like to eat or didn't eat or found disgusting to eat. And I wanted like more about their culture and stuff. Like I think that would have been really interesting to give these characters like really different cultures that they can like compare and get to know each other that way, but we didn't get that. That was like most of the book, and then I was like, oh, there's like no conflict, nothing's really happening, and then all this conflict happened at the end, which I really did like. So it was very interesting. I didn't realize this is part of a series. I have no idea how many books are in the series, but there's more. It was very wholesome, I would say, and it was quite sweet, and I think it would have been so easy for the author to have made this character your typical like alpha sort of love interest character, especially considering like he's so beastly in appearance. So I liked that she didn't do that and that their relationship was quite wholesome and like cute. So I started listening to From Blood and Ash again. Like I said, I started this back in December. I'm just continuing from where I was at. So I've only listened to like an hour more or so from where I was at, but we follow Poppy in this, and she is what's called the Maiden, and essentially that makes her someone who is chosen by the gods and will one day like ascend. Her life is like completely under control by those in power, and she is confined and like kept in secret. She has to wear a veil, she covers herself up, she's not really allowed any form of entertainment. And at the beginning of this book, one of her guards is killed, and we've just had a new guard come in to work with her or for her. I think that's the love interest. I'm like, I know it's the love interest because everyone tweets about him. I'm liking it so far. I think it's a really interesting and unique setup, and the writing is quite simplistic, so it's easy to get through, but also like fun at the same time. Okay, this feels like such a plot twist, but I think From Blood and Ash is getting me out of my slump. I feel like I've been in a slump for like 2 months, and I feel like reading because of this book. And I did not think this book was going to do this for me. I thought I was going to get through it, I guess, decently, quickly, and easily, because it's not like a super heavy fantasy or anything, but it's putting me back in the reading mood. I'm in shock. I can't believe it. I'm officially halfway now, or just over halfway. So I think I may finish this tomorrow. It just sort of depends, but I'm finding that I just want to listen to this, and I'm sort of slowly speeding up my audiobook because I'm enjoying it so much and I'm so engaged in the story. I can listen to it on a faster speed. This is such a weird feeling because this book, I'm not going to be standing on top of my rooftop yelling at everyone to read. Like, I do think it's kind of cringy, which was to be expected. And I feel like there would be particular times with my moods that I would pick this up and I wouldn't enjoy it at all. But my current mood and how easily digestible this book and story is, I feel like I'm thriving. I'm kind of shocked. I think what I like most about this story is the setup. I think the pacing's also really great. Like, we're not stalling. I think we have a really good balance as well between, we already have this like romantic tension set up between the 2 main characters, but they're not together yet. So you're kind of getting that like slow burn feel almost, even though like it's not exactly slow burn. Like, I'm getting the sense they're gonna get together very soon, but I like that we've had this like really good build up from tension. This book just doesn't feel like it's wasting its time. It's just getting straight to the point, and I really appreciate that, and I really needed that right now. So I'm having a great time. One thing I will say is the love interest, Hawk, The audiobook narrator, it's sort of a British accent. It's his attempt of a British accent, and it is trash. It is absolute trash. It's so bad, but I'm really in it now and I'm really enjoying it. So I managed to complete From Blood and Ash. I may have stayed up an entire night reading it. It got that addictive. Oh my goodness. I can definitely like see both sides of the opinions, and I'm like so stuck in the middle because this book is like entertaining as hell, and I read it at like a time I really needed a book like this. The writing is just so easy to read. It still had like fantasy elements, and I just always love fantasy and reading fantasy elements in my books. But like in terms of the characters, they're all kind of trash, like especially Hawke. I didn't like him from the beginning, honestly, when he was like at his most charming. I think that he talks way too much. He just loves the sound of his own voice. Like really, during those smutty scenes when he was just, shut up. Like, shut up. And then like 90% of the conversation is always him trying to compliment himself or speak about himself really highly. Get lost. I'm pretty neutral on Poppy, to be completely honest. I didn't love her, I didn't hate her. I think she's a pretty stand-up character that I would expect from a novel like this. Hawke though, I just did not like Hawke at all. But I definitely loved the end and how we got to know so much more about the world and the magic and the mystery. Like it just answered so many questions, but also gave you so many more questions to ask, which makes me like excited to pick up the second book. I'm so conflicted on what to rate this though, because there's a part of me that wants to rate this like 2.5 because Hawke was trash. There was like quite a few like problematic things that he said that was quite possessive, alpha male type guy, like, and then there was also things that were happening quite often for the convenience of the story and the plot and to get these two characters together so that they can, but at the same time that is to be expected since this is a romance focused story, so I feel like I can't critique it too much on that because that was its intention. But entertainment wise, the story was like a 4 at least. Like it was so entertaining. You know what, I think I'm gonna settle on a 3-star rating. That's a good rating. Okay, I decided next to pick up Sorcerer to the Crown. I don't know how I feel so far. I don't like the audiobook narrator a lot, and I tried to see if there was like an ebook available somewhere. Unfortunately it isn't, so I think I'm just gonna have to try and get used to the audiobook. Okay, I got a new tripod, so I'm just trying to work out angles. If this is awkward, I'm sorry. So I think I told you in my last update that I started listening to the audiobook for The Sorcerer to the Crown, of the Crown, that book. I really was struggling with the audiobook, and I think what happened with my recent slump was I actually got in an audiobook slump first, and then I got into a physical slump, and I just don't want to risk it and push myself through because I'm just feeling like I'm starting to come out of my slump. So we're not going to risk it. So I DNF'd the audiobook, but I was able to order the physical copy online, and that should be here maybe later today. So I'm just going to read it physically. I just was really struggling, to be honest, with that narrator, and there's a lot of world building that I just wasn't taking in, and I think it was because I was listening to it. Instead, I made a start on Empire of Sand. I'm so happy to say that I am loving this so far. We follow our main character, Meher. She is the daughter to a governor, so she is a noble woman, but she is a illegitimate child. So her father and her mother had her when she was not married, so she's illegitimate in the sense that she was born out of wedlock, but she's also considered impure because of her mother's blood. So her mother's people are considered barbarians, that term is used to describe them. They have darker skin. They also have a lot of customs and culture, traditions and rituals that they do that are looked down upon. The emperor is also seeking out these people and essentially erasing them, but because our main character has grown up in her father's household, she's lived under his protection. She did lose her mother when she was really young, and her father remarried. Well, he didn't remarry because he was never married to his mother, but his father married another woman. This lady, the stepmother, can't have kids, so she tried to raise Meher and her younger sister sister as her own, but Meher was raised for too long by her mother, and her mother also taught her the custom, culture, rituals of her people. So Meher knows all of this, and she has continued to practice these rituals. So the stepmother is really against Meher because she has continued to practice her mother's people's rituals and beliefs and still holds those values. So they have this conflict, but then there's this extra conflict because Meher's younger sister was too young to be taught by their mother. So the younger sister is being more raised by the stepmother, and the stepmother is trying to mold her in a child that she wants and that she sees as fit for their family and their household and their society. It's kind of sad because like Meher and her younger sister, they are quite close, but they aren't allowed to see each other often because of the stepmother, and the stepmother not wanting Meher to influence her sister in a way that she sees as negative. Another thing that's really interesting about Meher and her mother's people is they are believed to be descendants of gods, so they do have, well, it was suggested they have like inklings of powers. There's nothing like obvious yet that they have like strong magic, like they can, you know, do water bending or fire bending or anything. Like, there's nothing like obvious like that at the moment, but it has said they are closely tied to like the elements and that they practice rituals. Their blood also protects them from other sort of creatures of the gods, and we see that quite early on in this book. So I really like that, and that already that hint of magic. So far, I have to say, if I didn't know this was a fantasy romance book, I would have thought this is a straight up fantasy. Like, that's what it really seems like so far. What's just happened though is Meher did perform a ritual during the storm, which is when it's always performed, and she wore a particular ritual attire. And I won't get into too much of what happened, but she gets caught. She also doesn't get just caught having performed the ritual, but she gets caught outside on the streets barefaced, because in this society women have to cover up their faces with veils, and she gets caught without a veil. So she's shamed herself, she's shamed her household. No one caught her apart from those in her household doing this, but now her father's like, you've shamed us, you're gonna have to get married. He did set out a plan to have her go traveling from different courts and cities to try and test out some suitors and find a suitable husband. But now the chapter I just finished chapter 4, so I'm up to chapter 5. I'm 75 pages into this. We've just had a group of people come and say they've got someone that the emperor is insisting that she marries. So they are a group called the Emperor's Mystics, and they came from the desert on the behalf of their master, the Great One, aka Maha, who bids us to pray for the Emperor's glory. And they've brought someone who we have not met yet, that I'm thinking we're going to meet them in the next chapter or so. The offering has been made for Meher to marry this guy, and basically she's not going to be able to back out of it because of who she is and what she has done. I'm really liking this so far. There's really interesting commentary on class, on like different societies and cultures and customs and beliefs and the conflicts between each. Also with the emperor like putting Meher and her mother's people in danger, well, not just in danger, but like erasing them. So I think there's a lot going on. Also with the whole like magic being connected to the gods. I love any fantasy that has magic being connected to the gods. I think that's one of my favorite tropes in fantasy to read about. I always find authors have such a unique way of exploring that trope. I'm hoping to get like halfway through this today. I'm reading it pretty quickly, and then ideally finish it tomorrow, and then hopefully by then Sorcerer to the Crown would have arrived and I can finish off that book, which I will be starting from the start because I just feel like I didn't take anything in because of that audiobook narrator. Okay, I'm at page 225 of Empire of Sand. I'm absolutely loving this. I'm having so much fun. This book has so many things I love. We have this really interesting concept where these characters are bound. So they might be bound to a certain person or to a certain deed. In here, when the two characters get married, they are bound by law, but they also get bound like to each other. And after their wedding vows, they have like as mark on one another, meaning that they are bound to each other, which I just was so interesting, and I love that whole dynamic. I love that the magic in here has to do with gods and religion. That's always my favorite type of magic system. Where I'm at currently, we are learning a lot more about that, and we are learning a lot more about the Emrithi people. The Emrithi people is the main character's mother's people. The setting and the setup of the world is just my cup of tea, exactly. It's not an action-packed story, but I think there's so much intrigue in terms of like mystery with like the empathy people and what happened to them and what exactly can they do. And then there's intrigue with like political figures and like alliances and these people being bound. So there's a lot of like really interesting stuff happening. I think the other thing I will say is I think if people were going into this book for the romance in particular, you might struggle a little bit just because where I'm at, like the romance hasn't even really happened. I guess they're married, but the main girl's only just starting to get feelings for him, I think. So it's very slow developing. I think this book is quite slow paced overall, and I just love slow paced books, but I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I just think there's just so many interesting elements and intrigue that I really like. And I really like the story for taking its time in these elements and just sort of developing them. I really like the main character, Meher. She's one of those female characters who's really strong, but not in a physical sense, clever when it comes to like politics and interacting with people, navigating like the court, I guess you would say. That's her strength, and I really enjoy her. Oh, this is just so good. I'm hoping to finish this today. I sort of need to finish it today. So I got some book packages and I thought I would open them on camera, but one of the books, I think this one, is the last book I'm going to be reading in this vlog, the one that I started on audio and just hated the audiobook for. Oh. Ta-da! I found out after I ordered this that they did a cover change, so the second book won't match this if I get it. Oh well. And then I have this huge package. So this is the binder of the Inheritance trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. This is so floppy, look at it. Oh my god, that is so satisfying. Okay, so I finished Empire of Sand last night, and I'm so happy to tell you guys that this was a 5-star read. I have been in a slump. I haven't read much this year, and every single book I have read has been a 3-star rating or lower. Most of the books I've read have been lower than 3 stars. So to finally have a 5-star read is amazing. I loved this book so much. One thing I haven't really touched on from my previous clips is how much I really like the villain. The villain in here is one of those villains that has a lot of political power and influence, especially over people. And I love, whoops, I just knocked you. Anyway, I love those kind of villains. I think they are the most terrifying, those who have sway over people. I loved the romance. It is slow burn excellence. It doesn't happen until I want to say a third of the way through the book, like 2/3 maybe. So good. I love that we were introduced to our heroine Meher and we got to know her individually first in her situation and setup. Then we met these two characters together and we got to see them meet and form a friendship, and then they eventually grew into something more, and I just loved it. It was so good. Also, the love interest is such a soft boy, and they are the best. Soft boy and himbos. And I think there was so much interesting like fantasy elements, but also real world elements in terms of like oppression over a certain group of people. Oh, it was just so good. It was just so good. I can't recommend this enough. I do think some people will find this too slow paced, and especially the romance too slow paced, but in my eyes this was perfection, so you're wrong if you think that. Now for the final book in this vlog, Sorcerer to the Crown. I have made a start on this. I'm currently 70 pages in, and I'm so happy to tell you as well that I'm loving this. I'm so glad I DNF'd the audiobook because this book is so good, so good. It's set in Regency England, and we are following the newly appointed Sorcerer to the Crown. So the Sorcerer is like the most magical sorcerer, I guess, but the new Sorcerer, Zacharias, he is a black man, and he's the first black man to hold this position. So he's dealing with a lot of racism, a lot of prejudice, and so many people are not happy to see a black man in a position of power. So he's dealing with a lot of that. At the same time, what's been happening in England for quite a while is the magic has been lessening. So the sorcerers are growing weaker to a certain extent, and a lot of the sorcerers are now blaming Zacharias, even though this has been happening for years and years and years before he came into power. So he's trying to suss out what's happening. He thinks it's something to do with fairyland. He's already mentioned about traveling to fairyland to suss things out, or traveling closer to the border between fairyland and England. So I'm hoping that's where we're going to go relatively soon. Then we have a second main character who is Indian, and she is also a magician sorcerer of sorts, but she doesn't like claim any title or anything because females in this world are not allowed to have magic or learn magic. So she works at this school for young ladies where they try to teach them how to control their magic and essentially not use it, although that doesn't really seem to be successful. So I love it how already like this is set in Regency England, and we have these characters, like a black character and a female character who's Indian. You hardly ever get to see a black character or, you know, an Indian character during this time period. So I'm really liking that, and I really like all the discussion on like feminism and like how it was like improper to teach girls back in those days because, you know, educated women were, you know, not feminine enough or whatever. So there's so much already just in the first 70 pages that I'm loving. It's also so funny as well. There's been quite a few like really funny scenes, so the humor is like on point. Now our main character Zacharias has just gone to the school for girls where Penella, the other main character, works, and he is giving a speech to the girls, and he comes across Penella and some of the young girls doing magic, and he's like really impressed by their abilities. So I'm really liking this and really looking forward to seeing where the rest of the story goes. But I have decided I'm going to end the vlog here because it is Valentine's Day today. Happy Valentine's Day. Well, at least it's Valentine's Day in Australia, and I wanted to get this vlog up today so that when people watch it, because I know most of my viewers are from overseas and their time zone is usually a day behind mine, I wanted to get this up so that people can watch it on Valentine's Day, you know? So I'm going to end it here. Sorry I didn't get to finish this, but I also don't want to rush myself through this today to get it done. Like, I know I probably could, but I've also still got to edit this vlog. I've edited most of it, but I just don't want to risk it, especially since I'm still sensitive because I just got out of a slump. But you have to wait for my wrap up to hear my final thoughts on this. But so far I'm really enjoying it. If you have made it this far, leave me the heart emoji with an arrow through it, and I hope you enjoyed this vlog. It was really nice to do one that's not part of a series. I'm going to be doing more like standalone vlogs from now on, so I'm really looking forward to doing them. But I hope that you are doing well, you're enjoying whatever you're currently reading. I hope that you have a lovely Valentine's Day if you're celebrating or not, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!